Western ringtail possum, the distribution of it used to be over much of the southwest, but it's now much limited to small sort of coastal populations between Bunbury and Albany. So it's very much reduced on its original distribution, and it's regarded as a threatened species. Both is state and federally listed.
Now, just explain to us, why has that happened? Why is it threatened?
Essentially due to over-clearing and land use changes that have occurred since white settlement, I guess.
And tell us about the habitat that's so important to it.
The peppermint woodlands of the coastal strip in Geograph Bay are a very important habitat for the western ringtail possum. It also happens to be the areas that are fairly highly populated and very popular places for people to live. So what we find now is that with increased urbanisation, as people move to the southwest and particularly to Busselton and Dunsborough, that the habitat that was once in urban backyards is slowly being lost.
Right, and you're trying to change that, aren't you, in Busselton? Tell us what you're trying to do.
So we've developed this strategy, and there's a number of things within our strategy that we think the city of Busselton can do. And so we've got some new provisions within our town planning scheme, which describes a habitat protection area. These are particularly the older parts of Busselton, where you've got the larger lots and where a lot of consolidation is expected in the near future. So within that area, planning incentives are offered, such as density bonuses for subdivision where habitat areas are protected. And there's also some controls in place to try and better manage the loss of vegetation.
Right, and when you say to control the loss of vegetation, how would you do that?
Okay, well, the controls are basically we won't be preventing people or stopping people from removing vegetation. However, what we want to do is try and manage this loss and try and get some sort of transition phase happening, so that if vegetation is removed, we can actually replace it somewhere else in places where it can remain. So we see that typically what might happen is over the period of consolidation is that vegetation that's in backyards might actually be moved onto the street verge or into reserves that are managed by the city.
Right, because for all those people that will be thinking, lovely possums, sweet-looking little things, there are those, aren't there? There are those people who they're a bit of a pest. Is it going to be difficult to persuade them not to cut down, trees and the vegetation, the areas where the possums like to live?
Sure, some people do believe they're a bit of a pest, but of course there's reasons for that, and common complaints that we get, like possums, get into the roof of the house, or they eat my roses. So some things, you can fix. For example, you can seal off the roof space in your house, and some things just require a bit more appreciation and tolerance, because these animals are actually a threatened species. So, some people say there's plenty of possums in Busselton, but of course their threatened status is owed to the fact that their distribution was once much larger than it is now, and it's only limited to isolated patches. So, one of those patches happens to be the Busselton-Dunsborough urban area. So we're actually very privileged to have this animal in our backyard. The Busselton Council recognised this and made the ringtail possum our fauna emblem. So the strategy also recognises that our attitudes towards possums sometimes need to change, and community education needs to be ongoing to help that change.
Yeah. So love the possums. Love the possums in the city of Busselton. Don't be nasty to them.
Absolutely.
If people want to be involved, if people want to know more about this, want to be involved in this, what do they do, Will?
We've currently got our strategy and our town planning scheme amendment open for public comment. So you can provide comment into the Shire in writing. All the details are on our website, and form the strategy, the amendments, all of those sort of details are there. If you don't have internet, you can come into the Shire libraries or the Shire offices and get the information that way, or simply ring myself at the Shire and we'll organise some hard copies to be sent.